Tonight, the push to end testing chaos by changing strict interstate travel rules for Victorians. Indoor masks recommended but not the rule as National Cabinet meets to discuss the threat of Omicron. Cricket fans warned to expect new COVID protocols for the Boxing Day test. Chilling details revealed into why a father shot dead his daughter and her husband in Yarraville. Police swooped to save 2 stolen macaws worth $30,000 each. And supermarkets offering super cheap rock lobsters for Christmas.
Live from Melbourne, 7 News with Mike Amor starts now.
Good evening. Masks are now recommended indoors in all public areas as part of new measures to slow the spread of Omicron. The booster shot timeline is under review and the Prime Minister wants interstate travel rules changed to ease pressure on COVID testing sites.
From Mill Park to Albert Park and down Burke Street, Melburnians spent another day waiting hours to get tested.
The Omicron clouds are gathering over the horizon.
So too are holiday plans. Just over a quarter of tests are for travel reasons, not COVID symptoms, with Victorians needing to return a negative test result before heading interstate for Christmas.
It is not a highly productive way to use a PCR testing system, and of course it puts additional pressure on. So the additional queues and waiting times that we're seeing there at the moment are a byproduct of that, and we hope to move to a more sensible arrangement in the very near future.
Today's emergency meeting of National Cabinet addressed the testing crisis. This morning, Queensland Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk argued to keep the rule in place.
Can you see that it's safe to say that Queensland is now holding the rest of the country at ransom? Because this testing is causing angst amongst the populations in New South Wales.
10%.
Yeah, but Premier, have you seen the testing lines in New South Wales?
10% after. No, you've got this wrong.
Our Premier returned from leave today to attend National Cabinet, which wants to enforce but not mandate masks.
That is, mask wearing in indoor spaces in public areas is of course highly recommended. Whether it's mandated or not, that's what we should be doing.
We have 61 confirmed cases of Omicron in Victoria. In the last 24 hours, there were more than 92,000 tests. 1,500 new cases were found and there were 6 deaths.
Here we are again as we run into Christmas, gearing up again for a number of significant surges. So we are concerned about the risk of increased hospitalisations with Omicron starting to really make its way into Australia.
In New South Wales, there were 3,763 new cases. A month ago, they had just 180. They've processed more than 150,000 tests in the last 24 hours.
This is not a trivial Christmas story. This is a very, very significant threat to our state, to our healthcare system. Around
350,000 Victorians have already had their third shot. 400,000 can get it now, but haven't.
We know that the booster not only helps bump up again that protection from serious illness, but it also could reinstate as much as 70% reduced risk of symptomatic infection, which would be great. That would really help slow Omicron down in the community.
The state government's scaling up the vaccine workforce to ensure there are enough staff to cover boosters and jabs for children from January 10.
And Charnel Valla joins us live. Charnel, vaccine hubs are about to close for Christmas.
That's right, they will. The Royal Exhibition Building here in Carlton, it will shut on Christmas Eve and it won't reopen until January 4. It's a similar situation for many of our other vaccination hubs right across Melbourne. The message is to check the website before you head out. But if you are looking to get the jab between Christmas and New Year, you can pop in to your local pharmacist. Mike.
Charnel, thank you. State leaders will consider scrapping casual contacts from the COVID alert system to reduce the number of people needing to get tested. It comes as GPs and chemists are offered cash incentives to deliver more booster shots.
A quick dash to Canberra. The Prime Minister, his wife and the girls, even their dog, spending the night as Scott Morrison chairs the final National Cabinet of the year.
A very positive, practical and cooperative meeting.
He called to calm concerns over the rapid spread of the Omicron variant.
Presents another new challenge, but we have faced so many challenges already during the course of this pandemic.
Heightened fear is not helped by modelling like this, suggesting Australia could record up to 200,000 COVID cases a day by late January. A worst-case scenario labelled as misleading.
That is not a scenario that is envisaged in any way, shape or form.
The Premiers turn their focus to hospital admissions and booster shots.
We all have to put on our Christmas to-do list is to go and get our booster doses done.
The Commonwealth now committing to boost funding for doctors and pharmacists who administer the jabs.
We'll be increasing them up by $10 a jab, in addition to what they're already getting now.
It will make it more viable and sustainable to deliver this service.
Western Australia becoming the first state to mandate booster shots for high-risk workers.
We want to make sure that we do everything we can to keep people safe.
Federal Labor says the rollout is too slow.
Scott Morrison once again is failing the nation when it comes to the vaccine rollout.
Scott Morrison says the states are once again hoarding doses.
There's plenty of vaccines. There's plenty. There are 20 million in Australia.
And despite the rise in cases, all premiers, except Mark McGowan, have agreed to keep their borders open, with many expecting a flood of tourists over Christmas.
We're entering this new stage of the pandemic.
State and territory leaders have also agreed to redefine what it means to be a casual contact, with an argument to scrap the term and the requirements that come with it altogether.
What matters is how you're managing those close contacts and how they're defined and what you have to do.
Hoping to end the COVID chaos. Jennifer Beshwati, 7 News.
The MCG is expecting to have new COVID-safe rules for the Boxing Day test. Nick McCallum is on the ground. And Nick, any sign the Omicron scare will affect crowd numbers?
Mike, officials here are confident more than 70,000 people will attend on Sunday, making it the biggest crowd at the MCG since Anzac Day. And they say, given everything that's going on at the moment, that'd be a good result. But the situation in terms of mandatory masks is yet to be officially announced, but officials here expect it will involve several areas around the MCG during the test match. To allay fears, Boxing Day could be a super spreader event. MCG officials expect the state government to make masks mandatory, not in seats, but in crowded areas like entries and exits, in concourses, in toilets, at retail outlets, and while waiting for food and drinks at restaurants and bars.
It's always challenging to get everyone to wear masks, but in indoor settings, we'll have people on the doors making sure people do have masks on if it's mandated.
So if someone was not being compliant to the COVID safe plan and they become quarrelsome or problematic, then we would support removing them from the stadium.
Even if there is no government mandate.
We're all used to wearing masks, and I think we'd encourage everyone to bring a mask at this point in time, and when you're in congested areas, we'd encourage you to wear it.
Far from the record test match crowd of 91,000 here Boxing Day 2013, but it still looks promising with pre-booking.
Be a great scene to see 70,000 in the G again. We haven't had that for a fair while, and I think that's a pretty good number given there's still border issues and the virus is still causing us some issues.
While in Melbourne, players will not be allowed to eat in public restaurants indoors or to sign autographs.
And regrettably no contact with the public at this stage. The players and officials won't be going to crowded indoor public places.
And of course, whatever happens here next week will help determine the protocols for future major Melbourne events, such as the Australian Open tennis, the Grand Prix and the AFL season next year.
I'm not nervous. It's just so exciting to be able to put a big event back on.
Nick McCallum, 7 News.
COVID cases are hitting record highs around the nation. In Queensland, daily infections more than doubled to 186, the biggest increase since the pandemic began. Residents there must wear masks in cinemas and theatres from tomorrow. Western Australia has reported 2 positive tests. Both are travellers from Brisbane. The ACT's 58 cases is a record daily jump. Tasmania has 12 new infections, while the outbreak in South Australia has risen to a new high of 198. 500 million rapid COVID tests will be posted to American homes. US President Joe Biden has announced the free kits as his administration races to counter the Omicron surge.
The White House scrambles to head off a stunning COVID surge.
We should all be concerned about Omicron, but not panicked.
The President says he's sending 1,000 military medics to help overwhelmed hospitals, opening new COVID testing sites and from next month distributing at-home COVID tests, up to 500 million.
That's not million, billion with a B.
Free and mailed to any American who wants one. An idea reporters put to the White House a fortnight ago.
Why not just make them free and have them available everywhere?
Should we just send one to every American?
Mocked then, government policy now. The change reflecting America's daily new COVID cases. Then, Delta dominant, Omicron barely a blip. Now, cases are rising quickly and the new variant's role is through the roof.
Everyone's getting Omicron for Christmas this year. The question is just whether or not you're going to get it with the protection of vaccinations and boosters.
President Biden telling the near 1/3 of Americans still unvaccinated to get the jab.
And I honest to God believe it's your patriotic duty.
He accuses social media and cable TV of driving vaccine reluctance.
It's wrong. It's immoral. I call on the purveyors of these lies and misinformation to stop it.
Joe Biden won the White House, pitching himself as a leader who would bring the pandemic under control. 1 year in, it's anything but controlled. In the United States, Tim Lester, 7 News.
And the UK will avoid a second Christmas in lockdown after Boris Johnson confirmed there'll be no new restrictions this week. The British PM says he doesn't have enough evidence yet to suggest a lockdown is needed.
What this means is that people can go ahead with their Christmas plans, but the situation remains finely balanced. And I would urge everyone to exercise caution.
More data on the severity of Omicron is expected in the coming days. A father may die in jail for the shooting murders of his estranged daughter and her new husband outside their Yarraville home. The Supreme Court heard disturbing details of the moment the killer crept up on his victims and opened fire.
Lindita Musai's father was supposed to love and protect her, but instead he shot her in the head as she arrived home from a first anniversary holiday. He shot her husband Viton too. The Supreme Court told Osman Shabtafaj lay in wait for 2 hours before the deadly doorstep ambush. The 56-year-old turned the gun on himself but survived, pleading guilty to 2 counts of murder. A pre-sentence hearing was told Shabtafaj had been estranged from his children since his divorce 10 years earlier and was incensed Viton Musai had not followed tradition and asked his permission to marry Lindita. He had previously cut off his finger and sent it to his ex-wife. In a victim impact statement, Drilon Musai described the heartache of turning off his brother's life support and watching his parents crumble in grief. I didn't lose 2 family members that day, I lost my whole family. Defence counsel said her client deserved a sentencing discount because he suffered from a major depressive disorder, but the judge responded, this seems to be calculated, planned behaviour directed towards people walking towards their home, and for his own reasons of which he felt aggrieved. What's the state of depression got to do with that? Describing the murders as very, very extreme. The judge said he'll sentence Shabtafaj next year to a term that may well see him die in jail. Kate Jones, 7 News.
2 birds worth $30,000 each and stolen during a burglary have been found by police. Officers raided a home in Melbourne southeast and got more than they bargained for during the operation.
It was meant to be a routine rescue of 2 valuable birds. It turned into anything but. After being stolen from a Frankston South home last month, police found the rare macaws in a garage in Lyndhurst. Pippa was happy to be saved, but her sibling escaped and attacked a ranger before flying into a nearby gum tree. Firefighters were called in to coax the bird down, even bringing in a cherry picker. Crews used every trick in the book, but Baba wouldn't budge.
Unfortunately, it was a little bit unsure about coming into the cage with me, so it kept climbing across to other branches.
They came close not once, but 3 times before he took off again. The macaw was eventually found hiding out in a backyard across the road. Police found more than just the $60,000 birds in the home, also seizing a firearm inside a car. Inside the house, they allegedly uncovered a pile of cash, drugs and more firearms. A man has now been arrested and is being questioned by investigators. The macaws aren't only valuable in price to the owner, it's the sentimental value that's worth much more, as they were passed down by his late father. Rochelle Brown, 7 News.
The father of Novak Djokovic has added to the mystery of whether his son will play in the Australian Open, saying the world number one will do what's best for him. Tennis boss Craig Tiley concedes if the select few players may compete with a medical exemption.
As Australian Open wildcards christened the new 5,000-seat show court, Novak Djokovic's plan to get to Melbourne Park became clearer. The world number one's dad indicating on Serbian radio his son will apply to authorities for a vaccination exemption. They have to decide whether they will let Novak in.
We don't find out about it. It's dealt directly between the athlete and the medical panel.
Tournament boss Craig Tiley spoke to Djokovic over the weekend but didn't ask the big question.
I'm not going to ask Novak that. It's none of my business. If Novak shows up at the Australian Open, he'll either be vaccinated or he'll have a medical exemption.
Djokovic's dad said Novak will do what he thinks is best for him. Nobody will impose an opinion on him.
It's up to Novak to decide if he wants to be public about it.
3,300 players and support staff start arriving next Tuesday. So far, only a few have indicated they'll apply for an exemption. None are players. And with the Open already without superstars Roger Federer and Serena Williams, its chief hopes a COVID-positive Rafael Nadal will recover in time to play.
Yeah, I'm confident Rafa will be here, yeah.
For the first time, all players will stay at the one hotel at Crown. The strong suggestion that they stay alone in their room.
I think we're all so used to just being very cautious. Everyone just needs to be smart.
Just in case crowd limits are introduced, organisers are preparing several scenarios for crowd numbers, but remain confident that no fans who have bought tickets will be turned away.
If you don't want to come because of the safety issue and because of a bigger outbreak or whatever it may be, you can get a refund.
Paul Dowsley, 7 News.
Time for a look ahead to sport with Andrew McCormack inside Marvel Stadium. Macca, a former Aussie Test captain, is calling for Joe Root to be sacked.
Mike, incredible comments from Ian Chappell ahead of the Boxing Day test. He's labelled the English skipper a great batsman, but a bad captain.
Well, because he's not very good, and I don't see him as inspirational.
Strong words ahead. We'll have who he thinks should replace him, plus Chris Rogers backs a veteran quick for a dream test debut. Also, young Bulldogs star Bailey Smith is back at the kennel as the AFL reveals its plan to tackle COVID this season. And Mike, I'll be back shortly here at Marvel Stadium with the Renegades star ahead of a pretty big clash for the Renegades. Aaron Finch is back up against Mitch Marsh. More on that shortly.
Should be a ripper. Thanks, Macca. The father of a young woman murdered in a Melbourne park has a new mission: to save lives. He's on a political crusade to stop violence against women. Details next on 7 News. Plus, the race to book a seat as Qantas launches new flights direct to India. A dangerous chemical leak forces dozens to evacuate in Melbourne's west. And later, rock lobsters at rock bottom prices. How you could treat the family for less this Christmas. A chemical leak has forced 40 people to be evacuated from an industrial site at Truganina. Firefighters were called to the Niton Drive this morning after workers reported a strong vapour. A chemical had spilled from a drum into a closed area. Hazmat crews made the work site safe. The father of brutally killed Melbourne woman Courtney Heron has announced he'll stand for federal parliament in her memory. John Heron says he feels compelled to run so he can draw national attention to violence against women.
John Heron admits to being daunted by the challenge ahead of him, but the brutal killing of his daughter Courtney has compelled him to stand for federal parliament.
On her behalf and on behalf of a lot of other female victims of crime, I'm giving them a voice now.
In May 2019, Courtney Heron was bashed to death at Royal Park. Heartbreak led John Heron to become an advocate for victims of crime, particularly women and their families. The people he has helped have urged him to run.
good people of standing need to put their hand up.
The solicitor will be standing for the Liberal Democrats in the federal seat of McEwen. He denies that it's an odd fit, given that law and order is largely the domain of the states, and the party stands for less government intervention, not more.
So if you've got good legislation that allows freedoms to occur, then they do complement each other.
As a Navy veteran, he has a keen interest in defence matters. He will also be seeking tax reform and a national approach to intervention orders.
Although they're recognised nationally, there's a lot of inconsistencies of how they're applied.
The father of three was approached by two other parties which have significant financial clout. Instead, he'll largely fund his own campaign, likely to cost tens of thousands of dollars. If he's unsuccessful in his federal tilt, John Heron will back up at the state election in November, driven by a desire to ensure that the concerns of victims of crime will be heard.
You can bank on it.
Cameron Bowe, 7 News.
More Victorians are expected to hit the roads than ever before this summer, so drivers are being urged to factor in plenty of breaks to arrive safely. It's feared Victorians are out of practice for long trips and could fatigue more easily.
If you go 24 hours without sleep, you're the equivalent of being double the legal alcohol limit. Fatigue kills, just like speed kills.
There will be 30 pause stops along Victoria's major highways this summer for drivers to pull over, get a coffee and rest. Qantas has been swamped with demand for flights to India as Victoria continues to reopen to the world. The airline's first flight between Melbourne and Delhi will land this evening with emotional family reunions in time for Christmas.
The first Qantas flight from Melbourne to Delhi takes off. The A330 full with 208 passengers, many to be reunited with family in India for the first time in 2 years or more.
Mum had some drama with COVID overseas and I was so desperate but couldn't go. And the kids they've only been seeing them on video calls.
It's pretty good, yeah. Good feeling.
We paid about $2,600 per person. In 10 minutes, the prices were just going up like $400-500.
Some packing big.
It's for my niece. It's a Barbie dream house. It's going to Delhi. We've missed our birthdays last couple of years, so just wanted to take it this time.
This Qantas husband and wife team are back flying for the first time since the pandemic began.
When we got a phone call to come back to the to work, I was very excited. I actually had tears of happiness.
The route stops in Adelaide on the way to Delhi and is direct on return. India's international students and skilled migrants expected to make full use of the new flight path.
So for our economy, it's a really great boost today.
This flight sold out in just a few hours, but luckily for customers, there will be a permanent route from Melbourne to Delhi 4 times a week from today. But the international terminal remains extremely quiet.
We're only at 5% of pre-COVID levels, which is hard to believe.
Sarah Jones, 7 News.
Sonia Marinelli joins us now. And Sonia, we all want to know, where has the summer warmth gone?
Oh, Mike, we can blame the wind, which is keeping us in a cool airflow, while a weak cold front dragged in the cloud and those showers. But that's behind us now. The cloud has broken up to a stunning afternoon, and we're right now sitting on a mild 19 degrees. So we are under these cool winds for the rest of the week, but we do get a hit of warmth on Christmas Eve. Clouds building on Christmas Day, but staying dry. Mike will have the latest after sport.
Okay, we're all watching. Thanks, Sonia. Up next, supermarkets are slashing the price of lobsters to $22 just in time for Christmas. Details next. Plus, South Bank set for a mega makeover. Britain's billion-dollar divorce settlement reveals secret lifestyles of the rich. And the moment football fans fell victim to a misfiring escalator. The Southgate food court and restaurants will be knocked down to make way for new bars, shops and restaurants along the Yarra. The state government's approved the private project, hoping it will become a new Melbourne landmark.
A tourist hotspot soon to get a major makeover. The 3-level Southgate building, currently home to restaurants and shops, opened 30 years ago. It'll be demolished to make way for a new hospitality precinct.
This is going to be a real mecca for Melbourne.
The permit's signed off by Planning Minister Richard Wynne.
2,000 square metres of public open space, better linkage between Southgate and the Arts Precinct, 850 jobs during construction.
The revamp will include an office tower set back from the riverbank.
So there'll be no overshadowing of the river and a 26-level office development.
In front, a 5-level podium including parkland. The private project will cost $470 million, while the state government will tip in another $1.7 billion to revamp the neighbouring State Theatre precinct. But the city's divided over whether the area needs a facelift.
It's probably tired, but I don't see why.
It's nice to have a new look, I guess.
Well, I would say Melbourne is pretty good the way it is now.
Oh, I think it's pretty good as it is, but, can't keep things forever, I guess.
Restaurant owners here will be in limbo for some months yet. It's still not clear when they'll have to vacate. The developer says the timeline and scope of the project is still being finalised, along with how long it'll cause disruption to the ever-changing city. Emma O'Sullivan, 7 News.
The royal ruler of Dubai has been ordered to pay his ex-wife more than $1 billion as part of a nasty divorce battle. More than half the money will go towards security because of kidnapping fears.
Sheikh Mohammed, ruler of Dubai, good friend of the Queen and owner of the world's largest horse stable, Godolphin, now added to his long list of titles, divorcee. A judge ordered he pay his ex-wife, Princess Haya, the equivalent of $1 billion, half what she wanted. The 47-year-old Olympic equestrian rider was his 6th wife. She fled to London in 2019 with their 2 children, fearing her safety after an affair with her bodyguard.
It is not a judgment that you see day in and day out. It is worthy of being called a landmark case.
Around half the fortune will go towards lifelong security, the other half children's maintenance. In detail, she'll receive $9.2 million for holidays every year, $20,000 a week for groceries and a nanny. She'll remain in her $200 million mansion and will get $20 million annually for around-the-clock security because of fears the father of 30 will try to kidnap their 2 children. He's accused of abducting 2 daughters who tried to escape his royal regime. Princess Latifa releasing this video earlier this year.
I just want my passport and to be free. I don't want to be a hostage in this jail villa and I don't want to be a hostage in this country.
As part of the settlement, Sheikh Mohammed must pay his ex-wife $500 million cash by March. His lawyers insist that won't be a problem because of his estimated $10 billion fortune. The eye-watering settlement, a glimpse into the life of the wealthy elite. In London, Tegan Dolling, 7 News.
The head of the Church of England has reluctantly waded into the politics of vaccines. The Archbishop of Canterbury says he's puzzled by those who don't believe COVID is real and calls the vaccination rollout a moral issue.
I'm going to step out on thin ice here and say, yes, I think it is. A lot of people won't like that. But it's not about me and my rights to choose. It's about how I love my neighbour.
The Archbishop also reflected on one of the lasting images of this year, the widowed Queen at her husband's funeral. He says her ability to put others ahead of herself is more important than ever right now. A flight delay in Miami has turned violent, with 2 men arrested after losing their cool over disrupted travel plans. One damaged an airline cart before scuffling with police and biting an officer. The other got involved, leading a policeman to draw his gun in the packed terminal. Both men were arrested and taken away for questioning. Shocking new video shows people tumbling backwards and piling on top of each other after an escalator at a Boston train station malfunctioned. It reversed at high speed in September when crowds were returning from a football game. At least 9 people suffered minor injuries. A seafood Christmas lunch will be more accessible this year than ever before, with the price of crayfish slashed to near record low prices. Major supermarkets are selling rock lobster for as little as $22, but shoppers are warned they won't last long.
All stocked up and ready for the Christmas rush, this year crayfish is the catch of the day.
Which one would you like, sir?
Supermarkets are offering near record low prices in the lead up to Saturday.
They're cheap, $22 each. $22 for our smaller crayfish and $55 for our large crayfish.
Before COVID, 95% of southern rock lobster caught in Victoria was exported to China for a premium price.
Anything from $160 per kilo and more.
That demand made it expensive at home too, around $130 per kilo.
But the Chinese markets have closed. Victorian craze is staying local, making them much more affordable. $80 per kilo fresh, $90 cooked.
It's like the Ferrari, if you like, of rock lobster.
And it's not just crayfish on offer.
We've got plenty of oysters, we've got plenty of prawns.
There are still 2 days to snap up a seafood bargain before Christmas lunch. But suppliers warn with prices this low and demand so high, it's first in, best dressed.
Major supermarkets will be open until midnight in the lead up to Christmas, and the markets will also be opening as early as 4 a.m.
It's too late for orders now. We've been running an order book for 4 weeks. Get up early and get in here as early as you can.
Before, they've all been snagged.
My fist is moving.
Kathleen O'Connor, 7 News.
Up next, the Alfred Hospital Burns Unit delivers crucial advice for anyone about to fire up a summer barbie. Plus, a puppy thief caught on camera, leaving the owner distraught. A few tips to avoid being ripped off at the Boxing Day sales. Secret pop-up performances striking a chord across Melbourne. Victorians planning on firing up the barbie over summer are being urged to take care and not end up in a Burns unit. Alfred Hospital staff say too often people think they're being safe, but a simple mistake can leave them scarred forever.
4 months ago, this father of 2 was preparing family dinner when his barbecue exploded.
It just happened so quick. So yeah, then I realised I was on fire.
He suffered 3rd-degree burns to his hands, face and arms.
Excruciating. Yeah, I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy.
Con was one of Hannah Menz's patients, but he won't be her last.
Barbecue season, warm weather, we're a little bit concerned that our admission rates are going to go up with relation to barbecue-related burns.
Staff at the Alfred Hospital say the number of patients admitted to the burns unit for barbecue-related injuries around Christmas is worrying. Over 80% of cases were caused by an accelerant.
They're bigger than the average burn and they're more serious than the average burn.
At least 5,000 Victorians end up in hospital with burns each year. Around 400 of them require specialist treatment and sometimes surgery here at the Alfred Hospital.
Which means that you're in hospital for a couple of weeks, and we really don't want that over this period.
But for Con, while he's more cautious, nothing can keep him away from his beloved Barbie.
I still have that fear, even till now, but it's just, I don't know. Just do it and get on with it and don't worry about it. Lightning doesn't strike twice.
Kathleen O'Connor, 7 News.
Time for a check on the markets now, and the ASX 200 closed 10 points higher. Gains in technology and commodity stocks were offset by losses in the real estate and financial sectors. The Aussie dollar is buying 71.31 US cents. There's a last-minute rush on buying Christmas gifts, but some savvy shoppers are already turning their attention to the Boxing Day sales. Australians are expected to spend billions on Sunday, as consumer experts warn not everyone will get a good deal.
The festive season shopping rush.
Boxing Day is one of the biggest sales of the year in Australia.
A $4 billion spending spree expected this Boxing Day, and a pent-up appetite to splurge over the pandemic.
We're very, very busy all the time. Compared to 2 or 3 years ago, we're at 10, 20 and 30% higher than we were then. That's extraordinary.
The average Australian will fork out over $550, but experts say there are ways to avoid breaking the bank. Discounts can be misleading, like this sale where up to 80% off is being advertised. Some products only 20% off. Chemist Warehouse caught jacking up prices on 3 Black Friday sales items. And although 1 in 5 Australians opt for an extended warranty, the advice is watch out for businesses pushing the add-on. They often guarantee the same rights as consumer law.
Ask the salesperson straight up, what does this give me above and beyond my rights in the Australian consumer law?
And more than 7 million Australians are planning to get the in-store shopping experience this Sunday, but retailers say quality of service won't be the same as last year due to staff shortages.
We're also dealing with supply chain disruptions, which means that there might be a high level of out of stocks during this post-Christmas period.
Angelique Opie, 7 News.
A pet detective has been enlisted to track down a 10-week-old cavoodle puppy snatched from a family home. The dog nappers were located in Sydney but refused to reveal what they'd done with little JC, who was a Christmas present.
Well, we want the puppy back. That's all we want. We don't want anything else. We don't care about what's happened.
It was feared the pup had been resold, but we've just learned in the past few minutes that he's been found and returned to his very happy owner. Good news. Generous Melburnians have dug deep to make sure the most vulnerable in our community feel the festive spirit this year. Christmas lunch at St Mary's House of Welcome has been called off due to the pandemic, but it will receive hampers instead.
We want people who are homeless and vulnerable to know that they are not on their own.
250 people will receive the Christmas products packed by volunteers. Last-minute Christmas shoppers in the CBD have been treated to an unexpected live performance from one of Australia's biggest stars. Singer Amy Shark turned South Bank's Evan Walker Bridge into a makeshift stage this afternoon, surprising passers-by.
Tell them all I said hi, have a nice day. I'll be just fine, don't worry about me.
It was part of a state government program to bring music back to the city, with more surprise gigs set to pop up over the coming days. Andrew McCormack is back with sport from inside Marvel Stadium. Mac, an Aussie great, has lit the fuse ahead of the Boxing Day test.
He certainly has, Mike. He's put the heat on English skipper Joe Root. Hear the exclusive interview next as calls grow louder for selectors to grant a Victorian and MCG fairy tale. Plus, we'll get the final word from the Renegades ahead of tonight's Big Bash clash here against the Scorchers. The Bulldogs with some early Christmas cheer, welcoming back Bailey Smith, and the coach who got a bit more than he ordered for in the US. Welcome back. There's drama in the English dressing room as the visitors stare down an Ashes whitewash. Captain Joe Root has come under fire while Aussie selectors are leaving the door open for a Boxing Day fairy tale.
A day off with families, shopping and soaking up the Melbourne surrounds. All signs point to the MCG on Boxing Day.
Which way the city?
The Aussies holding a commanding 2-0 series lead, now damning question marks over Joe Root's job in the driver's seat.
England haven't got an inspirational leader. Joe really, he's a very good batsman, but he shouldn't be captain.
The skipper critical of his bowlers early in Adelaide.
I don't think we bowled the right lengths. I think if we're being brutally honest, we needed to bowl fuller.
Now at odds with veteran Stuart Broad, who wrote, although there was an argument we could have bowled fuller, because the ball did so little, our economy rates would have gone through the roof.
Someone who captains a cricket team has got to at some point just bang the table and say, mate, boys, this is what we're going to do. We're going to bloody do it, and we're going to start doing it now. Just follow me. You look through that England team list and there's only one name there, and that's Ben Stokes.
England speedster Mark Wood ready to return. Pat Cummins back for the Aussies, who have included uncapped Victorian Scott Boland in their squad after a sizzling Shield summer. Still fitness doubts for Josh Hazlewood and a sore back for Mitch Starc.
If anyone knows the MCG well, it's going to be Scotty Boland in recent times. So, you know, I think there's that kind of, I don't know, romantic thought that he could play in a home test.
Selectors sticking with opener Marcus Harris in the squad, pressure mounting after 2 quiet tests.
He's no fool, he'll be well aware of it and really hoping he can go out and get a big one on Boxing Day.
The wicket set for more life than the Ashes offering 4 summers ago.
We're leaving a lot more grass on them now. We're trying to provide a contest as much as we can.
Mitch Cleary, 7 News.
The Melbourne Renegades will be looking to take down the Big Bash leading Perth Scorchers here at Marvel Stadium tonight, and a refreshed Aaron Finch will be a big boost for the men in red who have dropped their last 2 games.
I think everyone's going to walk a bit taller having the World Cup winning captain back in the team, so it's going to be a bit of a different feel having him around the team and not being captain, but I think everyone's going to see him back out there as the fans should be, and hopefully with that comes the typical Finch runs that we expect.
You can see the Finch and the Renegades right here on 7 straight after the news. The Melbourne Stars will be without Adam Zampa for Friday's match against the Hurricanes. The Aussie leg spinner is being rested until next week's game in Brisbane. Players are bracing for potentially tighter COVID restrictions over Christmas.
My plans were to go eat outside at a restaurant in St Kilda by the beach and relax, but I did find out this morning that I might be overstepping the mark by doing that, so we'll see what CA says.
Andre Russell has 2 more games left with the Stars before he heads home. To some footy news now, and Bailey Smith has returned to the Bulldogs after being granted personal leave from the club. The Dogs wrapped up their year with their final training session today before the Christmas break.
It was a tough session, it was a bit of a grind, but we've clicked off some good Ks, done some good stuff in the gym, and a really good platform to launch into next year.
They'll return to training at the Kennel on January 13. Meanwhile, AFLW games will go ahead this season, even if almost half a club squad is ruled out because of COVID protocols. Games will continue to be played if 16 of the 30 primary listed players plus 5 training players are available. If the minimum 21 players aren't able to play, games will be rescheduled or, at worst case, cancelled. The AFLW season begins on January 7. Melbourne City's season has been thrown into chaos, the club confirming 6 players have tested positive to COVID, with tonight's FFA Cup clash in Casey postponed. The remainder of the playing group and football staff are now self-isolating for 7 days, with their match to be played on New Year's Day. Nick Kyrgios will launch his summer campaign in less than a fortnight right here in Melbourne. The Aussie showman accepted a wildcard for an Oz Open warm-up event beginning on January 4. Meanwhile, veteran Sam Stosur will play the Grand Slam at Melbourne Park for a staggering 20th time after she earned a wildcard along with the newly married Daria Saville. And forget about the Gatorade shower. This is how they celebrate the winning Potato Bowl in Idaho.
Coach Bowl is not that agile anymore. And those French fries stay on the person of Coach Bowl for a long time.
The Wyoming Cowboys getting the chocolates and the fries over Kent State 52-38. That's all from Marvel Stadium here. The Renegades will bowl first. The Scorchers are with the bat first. Mike Mitch Marsh, arguably the best T20 player in the country right now. James Pattinson with the new ball should be great. Straight after the news here on 7.
OK, thanks, Macca. Sonia Marinelli is next with the forecast. And Sonia, tell us we're done with the grey sky.
Oh, I'm excited to say, Mike, we sure are. We've got increasing sunshine tomorrow ahead of a dry, mild Christmas. I'll have the details next. Good evening. Our Wednesday may have started under thick cloud with some drizzly showers, but look at it now. The sky has cleared and we're sitting on a mild 18 degrees after hitting an afternoon high of 19.8. Patchy showers passed through earlier today, just a sprinkling, and it was mainly over the outer suburbs. It's settled outside now under a cool breeze. We're sitting on 19 degrees out of the airport and 18 degrees in Frankston. Further out, and we can see that cloud streaming across southern Victoria this morning. That delivered some isolated showers. They've cleared now and most of that cloud has broken up. It has been cool if you're down along the coast, only reaching 19 in Portland and Wonthaggi, but it did warm up again for those in the north. Our midweek cloud was dragged in by a weak cold front that just brushed southern Victoria. Behind it, a ridge of high pressure is extending over Bass Strait, and that will deliver a run of dry, settled days. The whole state will enjoy clear, sunny skies on Christmas Eve, and then cloud passing through on Christmas Day, but it will be sunny in the afternoon. Nationwide, and the extreme summer heat is continuing to build tomorrow as it pushes down a little further south, but it's not going to reach us. We're spending the rest of the week in a cool southerly airflow. Tomorrow marks the start of a run of rainy days right down the east coast, but cloudy and dry for those in Hobart. Back home, there is a chance of morning fog in the northeast, mainly about the ranges, while onshore winds will push more cloud and patchy showers over East Gippsland. Away from there, though, it is another dry day. Morning cloud in the south, clearing to a sunny afternoon statewide. Closer in, and although we're starting off under morning cloud, it'll burn off to a sunny afternoon. We're heading for 20 in Avalon and Geelong, 22 degrees for those in Watsonia. And it is a delightful 21 degrees for those of us here in the city from a low of 12. Then we're looking forward to a sunny 25 degrees on Christmas Eve under a light southerly, becoming mostly sunny on Christmas Day as the city heads for a dry top of 21. Partly cloudy and 20 on Boxing Day, and then it's a run of perfect weather, 26 degrees on Monday and Tuesday, 25 on Wednesday under partly cloudy skies. Mike, I'm loving this Christmas forecast. Not too hot, not too cold, just right.
Perfect for a barbie. Thanks, Sonia. And that's 7 News for now from the team. Have a great night.